Hi guys, welcome back. One of the most common non-discriminatory reasons that employers give for whatever adverse action they take against us is that our performance or conduct was a problem. Now, a lot of these problems aren't real, they're completely made up. Fighting back against that kind of pretext is a challenge, but it can be done. The first thing I always recommend is taking some time to familiarize ourselves with our employer's policies and procedures, especially the ones related to things like performance evaluations, rules of employee conduct, discipline, handling of our complaints, and requests for reasonable accommodation. Their policies spell out what they should do in response to things like a request for reasonable accommodation or a complaint of discrimination or whatever. And knowing what they should be doing makes it easier for us to recognize when they're not doing it. And while you're reading up on the policies, you may want to go ahead and email yourself copies, so you always have them in case anything happens and you can't get to them later. Now, here are a few of the policies I grabbed. These are related to how NASA was supposed to handle my request for reasonable accommodation and my complaint of discrimination. And these are related to some false accusations that my boss made against me. For instance, she tried to claim that I was AWOL one day because I called in sick instead of coming into the office so she could lay eyes on me and decide whether or not I could use my sick leave that day. NASA's leave policy said that I didn't need her approval to use sick leave. She had the right to ask for a doctor's excuse if I was out for more than a couple days, but that's it. She made up a bunch of fake rules like that, to me and to my investigator. Knowing the actual policies and having copies of my own that I could show the investigator helped me shoot down that pretext. We also want to gather whatever evidence we can to shoot down their false claims about our performance and conduct. Copies of our last few performance evaluations, emails, even emails from coworkers and peers commending us for our good work, awards we won, and any other relevant documentation that demonstrates we've done our job well. If our performance and conduct problems aren't real, and they either haven't documented a problem or didn't start documenting a problem until after we filed a complaint against them, that's a pretty good sign of pretext. And we can use the documentation we have to bring that to light. On the other hand, if you have real issues and they've been documenting them all along, that's not pretext, and unfortunately, this probably isn't going to help you. We want to document what they do and say. I carried a hardbound journal with me everywhere I went, even before the discrimination, because part of my job was keeping track of the design decisions that our team was making on a daily basis. After my boss refused to reasonably accommodate me, I started including notes about my interactions with her and my coworkers. Like when a peer made a joke about how disabled people are broken and should be thrown away instead of accommodated. My boss and everybody laughed. Writing it down in my journal didn't stop them from laughing, and that hurt. But it did remind me that sooner or later, those kinds of comments were going to come back and bite them. And we want to ask for clarification and guidance about why they're doing what they're doing. I had a spotless record when my diversity manager threatened to put me on a PIP to make it easier for my boss to fire me. So it was obvious pretext. And I wanted to argue with them about it, but I was afraid that whatever I said they'd be able to spin and use against me. But I also knew that if I did nothing, they were going to put me on a PIP, and eventually I was going to get fired. So instead of hiding or arguing, I decided to ask some polite but pointed questions in email. Hey, in our meeting just now, you said you were going to put me under a PIP. Can you clarify what gives you that authority? Because you aren't my supervisor. Can you explain how NASA decided a PIP was an appropriate response to my complaint of discrimination? Can you direct me to the policy that lays out my due process rights in this situation? I never thought asking those questions was going to make them give up on the PIP altogether. I was just trying to document what they were up to. But it did make them give up on it, and it was never mentioned to me again. And now I see why. If they had answered my questions honestly, they would have to admit that the reason they were putting me on a PIP was because I filed a complaint against them. If they lied by citing some non-existent policy, I'd be able to pull out the real policy and show they were lying. And if they just ignored my questions and put me on a PIP anyway, I'd have had some pretty good evidence of retaliation. Asking questions is an excellent way to call out the shady behavior and document it at the same time. And sometimes asking questions makes them think twice about what they're doing and can even stop them in their tracks. The key is keeping our questions polite, professional, and pointed directly at their shady behavior. It really stinks that employers would rather make up lies about us than stop the discrimination, but a lot of them do. The best way to fight back is to know their policies, document every sus move they make, and call them out with questions at every opportunity. It works. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care and hang in. Fight smart.